Hi, it's Chip Smith with Century 21, New Millennium, and this is The Real in Real Estate. On today's episode, first, a TV show got me thinking. Learn what it's about, what show that was. We talk to you, the audience, in a new segment called Question of the Day. We're going to take a look at a celebrity house that sold on the market. Did it go for more or less? And finally, Chip's Watch will give you the market outlook. Stick around, it's all coming up right now. Like many of you, I've probably been watching a little bit too much TV. And I was tuning into HGTV's Love It or List It and watching a segment of it. And I was looking at it thinking, why does this show even exist? Why is it that we found such a great interest in it? And it began to make me think about that, is that when I'm working with a client, I walk in and they're thinking about selling their home, and I really normally am like, are you really sure you want to sell your house? It is a major undertaking. It's like managing a project. You've really got a lot to do normally, and it's really going to really engulf you for a lot of time. So we start talking a little bit about, initially when I walk in, about, why is it that you want to list your home? And really what ends up happening is that the reason why they don't love it is because functionally, it just doesn't work for them anymore. So what happens is that they're short a bedroom. The kitchen's just not what it is anymore. They're into cooking now and they love it. And they're like, this kitchen's it was great, but now not so much. Or maybe they've added a child to the family or things like that. Or maybe their job is taking them to another location. That's just some of those things. So the Love It or List It begins to think a little bit about why is it that we no longer love where we are, and then it's about getting ready to list it. And so what I wanted to talk a little bit about is getting ready to list it, because most times we're got to walk in and they start walking me around the house, and what do we talk about? Man, do we really have to do something in the bathroom? What do you think about the kitchen? Does the kitchen look okay? Is the flooring okay? What do you think we should be doing with this rec room we haven't been doing, haven't updated in a while? So what happens is I begin to talk a little bit about it. And you know what always happens? The dollar signs come up, right? I'm like, oh gosh, Chip, so what is it going to be right now that it's going to be? How much is it going to be for me to do the kitchen? How much is it going to be for me to do the bathroom? And so what I want to do is I want to kind of begin to get you to understand right now that it usually does take some dollars to be able to really bring your home up to a certain level to get it actually on market. And what we want to do is we really want to be able to use those dollars well to be able to get them back in the sale. But I also want to say, I can't promise you that it's going to be a dollar for dollar thing. It is not necessarily going to be that if you spend $10 or $15 or $20,000 on your kitchen, are you going to get an extra $20,000 back on the sale of your house? And what happens is, remember, you're trying to raise your home up to really compete with the other homes in the market. You may have slipped behind and need to put a little bit of that investment in. So what I want to reference a little bit is I was just looking up in, there's a publication out there, it's a remodeling magazine. And I was looking up in this publication about what percentages actually come back when you're remodeling. And so the percentages that come back in remodeling, so when you put the money into the kitchen and you're just kind of in a mid-range, you're usually going to get about 75 or 80% of those dollars back, which is really, I think, a pretty good return. So that was really good. Now, if you feel as though that you've got to do a lot more work to do the rec room and make that and put walls up, you know what? You're really only going to get about 50 or 60% of that back. And that is not a place to put the dollars. And I'll be the first one to tell you that's not to do it. The number one place, and it's not sexy at all, the number one place that gives you greatest value in the home is the things that protect your home. Your roof. You get almost 90, almost 100% of a new roof price back. The siding on the outside, if it needs repair and done, that you're going to get almost every dollar for dollar back. If you put a new HVAC system in, You're going to all of a sudden, someone's going to be like, gosh, you just invested in a new HVAC? Of course that costs $10 or $12 or $15,000. And of course we're going to do that. And we find value in that. So you're going to get those dollars back. So those are those really nice, good bones things that we talk about that we really want to be able to put the dollars into. And then we also really want those sexy dollars in there too. I've just talked a great deal about putting some money and improving your home before you list it. And I want to share that for sellers who have equity in their home, but you need the money for the repairs and the home improvements, I have a company that will do the work, and then they will wait to be paid after settlement from your proceeds. So that is a great opportunity to do things without putting the cash up front. Fun thing we always like to do is the question of the day. So I've been asked a great deal about, are we in a housing bubble? Well, what worries some folks out there is that the previous housing bubble that happened started coming around 2006, even 05, 6, 7, 8, and then on 8 is when things really started coming down, and maybe the year before that. I kind of remember it really well because that was the first couple of years that I had my license as a realtor. And what happened is that here I was coming on and getting my license and seeing the market really super high. Everyone's out there, the amount of enthusiasm. And then all of a sudden in those next couple of years, I just watched things slowly collapse down. So are we in a housing bubble again? And I've been taking a look at really what a number of the economists have been saying, what a number of the experts here locally in the Washington, D.C. market have been saying. And their opinion is that we're not. And it's really for 3 different reasons. The 3 reasons are mortgages are stricter, down payments are higher, and also the tight supply of homes is supporting the prices and their escalation. So let's take that apart a little bit about what those 3 things are and why that is. Mortgages are more strict. So what occurred is a lot of deregulation back in that time period, and now it is more strict to actually get a mortgage. It's a little tougher to qualify. The institutions have really tightened down on that after that collapse in the previous period. And so when individuals are really going to qualify and really get fully approved for a mortgage, they've really got to document well. And you've really got to be able to really show that you are going to be able to meet those obligations. So the rules are much more strict, whereas previously they were not. Some loans were even written without really much documentation, if any at all, in previous years. The second thing is down payments are higher. I don't want that to scare anybody who's looking to purchase first time, because you can still use an FHA loan at 3%. You can still use really a 5% down payment and still kind of get into like a conventional mortgage. You can still do those type of things. So what that means by down payments are higher is that the market is just finding that people are bringing more money to the table. They feel as though that it is important to put more money into the homes that they're purchasing and that they're getting in a little bit larger or better equity position up front. It's not that is necessarily a requirement that's being put on by the financial institutions. But generally speaking, down payments are higher, which is good for the mortgage industry, for the financial institutions themselves, and even for equity for homeowners. It's really great for them too. Finally, really tight supply, supporting prices. What occurred is that in the previous boom, money was a little bit more loose, and also that people could qualify easily for mortgages. So what happens there is that the builders kind of get in and they start building a lot of homes and they get the new homes up. And for those of you that may have remembered this, we would have seen news segments about all these housing developments built outside of Las Vegas or down in Florida. And it was just like vacant lots, like people just got up and just left. And we saw that and everyone was like, wow, how did that happen? It's because it was overbuilt with a lot of easy money. Well, right now the supply is tight. While their builders are there, they still have those same restrictions as anyone else to get the money. It's a little tougher to put the money there to actually get those big builds going on like it used to. Builders are still building, but they're not building at the pace of which the demand is. So therefore, supply is still staying tight. So I just want to say, are we in a housing bubble? The experts say that we're just fine, that the gains that we have with the increase in price and this little tighter supply, even though if it eases up, it should still hold together. So of course I was taking a look on the web and I'm kind of getting hooked on looking at some celebrity homes. So what I did is I ran across the home of Emily Blunt and John Krasinski. And for those of you, hopefully you know this couple, and I understand they have 2 daughters, great family and stuff. And you might remember them from their movie 2018, A Quiet Place. So I just assume that if you were to look at their home in Brooklyn, New York, you'd probably have to go in and whisper. For those of you that know what I'm talking about, you do, but if not, then watch the movie if you can stand it. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about their house. 4-story limestone, 7 bedrooms. As I mentioned, it's in Brooklyn. And a limestone is going to be, let's translate that to Washington, D.C. now, it's kind of like the row houses. It's kind of like something you'd see downtown. You might see this in Old Town Alexandria. It's really kind of the precursor to what is the modern day townhouse, is basically it, okay? So, of course, it was completely restored because why? It was built in 1909, the actual bones of it. Now, I kind of bring this up because here they are, this age of home, and just really completely restored in a beautiful home. And so what did they ask sale-wise for it? They were asking for $8 million. I mean, come on. Emily and John's house, I'm sure, is worth $8 million, but it did recently sell. So is that really a deal or a steal? Did it go for over 8? Did it go for under? Well, they got price $6,562,500. So it made me think, I'm like, who priced it at $8 million? I mean, the two hottest markets in the country are New York and San Francisco. So why is it that they price it at $8 million and it really came down here at more in the 6.5 type of range? And I'll tell you that there's a couple of things that I'm going to maybe touch on that a little bit in the segment coming up on Chips Watch. But what happens is that the market softened a little bit in New York. And also, let's face it, that there's not as many buyers in that price range. So they probably didn't have that level of exposure. It was probably easier for them just to step out of it because I'm sure they wanted to take the money and go and play somewhere else. The one other thing I wanted to bring up about this is that very much like Brooklyn, and quick note, I worked in New York back in the 90s, loved it there. Brooklyn's gone into this big renovation and just kind of revitalized itself. And I loved going back 2 years ago and experiencing Brooklyn. It was really cool. So I encourage you to kind of get up there and see New York again as soon as we open up again. But what I'm paralleling that to Washington, D.C. is you think about Washington, D.C. and what happened in Washington, D.C. is that we really, as communities, were developed post-World War II. Homes were built in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. And so what's happened in the market is that you really had to completely restore. The owners really had to redo these homes in Arlington and Fairfax and further out. So what we're going to be looking at and what we're going to talk about, especially on the next segment, is that what is the price of my home now, even after this renovation? And why is it that I can't ask this top dollar for it, kind of like that Emily and John did, and be able to get that in this market? So I'll be covering that next time. And what it is about what is the strategy on selling my home. Now for the segment Chips Watch, which is a look at the industry. Remember, we're looking out on the horizon and trying to see what is out there. I was on the MLS. I was taking a look in Fairfax County. It's the largest county here in Northern Virginia. Just taking a look and just see for currently right now in the month of March, how many homes, doesn't matter where they are, condos, townhouses, single family homes, how many are for sale right now? 902. 902. That's it. That is crazy. That number should be 1,400, 1,500, 50% greater, if not more. So what's happening is that people are still not getting the homes on the market. They need to be able to actually get up and actually list their homes. And so it's still a great opportune time to sell your home because why? Prices are up 10%. Interest rates are still good. But now let's talk a little bit about where that change is. Looking out on the horizon. Interest rates are still great. But what has happened is that interest rates are creeping up. Right now, interest rates are up almost a half a point over just the same time about a month ago. So right now, we are coming in somewhere around 3.25% to 3.5%, where it fell below 3% recently. Now everyone's gonna be like, oh my gosh, interest rates are up, ah! But folks, as far as historically, they're still great, absolutely. And also, we really do anticipate that more inventory will be coming on the market. As I mentioned in the previous segment, we were talking about the end of spring, beginning of summer, like early summer. So we really think that inventory will come back. And I'm going to say this, is that with interest rates inching up, and that's tied in, as I described last time, kind of into T-bills and money and kind of inching up a bit, I'm going to give you the good news to that. This is what normal begins to look like. All we want is a little normalcy. Remember, everyone wants a little normality? Well, if interest rates can if it's okay for them to go up a little bit, all of a sudden what will happen is maybe the demand, some of the supply will start to catch up. Maybe that will start to come together. And then what we'll have is we'll get back to just a normal type of market in which we can really get out there and buyers can, and sellers both, can really feel good about all these purchases that are going on. And that's really what we want to be able to do. And that's what I think that's going to be happening here at Chips Watch. So keep an eye out. This is Chip Smith, Century 21, New Millennium. Gosh, what a blast. And this time has just flown by as usual. I do have a couple thanks to send out. First of all, to my producer, Adam. Thank you, Adam, for making this happen. And secondly, also to everyone at Century 21 New Millennium for the support and all the tools and this research and background that we provide every day to our customers and to each other. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of The Real in Real Estate. And just a reminder, my information is on the screen. So please call, text, or email me with any questions you have. Look forward to hearing from you. And if you're just listening to the audio, just head over to my Facebook or my LinkedIn page and just look for me, Chip Smith, Century 21 New Millennium.